What's up, everybody? Um, it's funny. Every single time I finish one of these videos, I sit there and I think, "What the hell am I going to do the next one on? What's going to be next? Or um, how am I going to talk about something else? Or what is something that I think I could talk about for a little while?" And I think with the upcoming seasons, um, I think it's a good time to start talking about mental health, um, and how it affects each and every one of us. Um, I remember when um, I was younger, hearing the term mental illness, you just started to think crazy people. Person should be in a straitjacket and they should be put in some type of psychiatric ward or something along those lines. And now, at least something positive that's happened is that bit of nomenclature has pretty much gone away. Um, there's something, last figures I had heard was like 60% of people suffer from some form of mental illness. And I think a big part of things like that is there are, damn it, there are so many times now where um, I think trying to chase perfectionism, shit, trying to chase perfectionism is something that is causing a lot of it. Um, because I think a large part of why we are in these situations is because you're expected to be perfect in everything. You're expected to have perfect knowledge of what's going on around you. You're expected to have perfect awareness. You're supposed to have a perfect answer for every type of situation and things like that. And I think the overinflation of all these social media apps, Snapchat and um, Instagram and Twitter. Fuck you. I'm not calling it X, Elon. Just shut up and grow up. We all know it's Twitter. Only kids who are older than maybe 15 at this point are going to call it X. It's Twitter. Shut up. Facebook, things like that, to where there's this constant stigma of I need to chase and be that type of perfection. You can even go so far as to say that Twitch itself is thrown into that category, and any other streaming services. Um, I think Kick is supposed to be the next highest one or something like that. Um, because you see people who have an insane amount of luck or an insane amount of skill or a very catching um, shtick, and it leads them to this point to where they're able to do all these extravagant things. And I'm sure I'm not alone. Like, there's some YouTubers and stuff that you follow, and they'll talk about, well, I got a McLaren or I got a Lambo, and I just got these several $100,000 cars and shit, and we're just kind of going, can't relate. And it started to have that gap, and people seem to have it in their head, to where, well, I have a webcam, it was $50 to $100. I have a microphone, it was $50 to $100. I should be able to go ahead and have my time to where I get to those things. And um, people that chase it as I'm going to be the next big thing, are sort of mistaken of realizing just how hard it is. I remember I started, um, there was a couple of videos that I saw that I just went, this is absolutely ridiculous. And it says millions of views. I go, I can do better than that. And I've been realizing, that while I enjoy the audience that I have, it's not as big as it once was, and I don't know how I would handle being grown at such a vast size. But I think that disconnect of, well, now I have all of these types of followers or subscribers or whatever, and you get to the point to where you have it in your head of, okay, now I can do whatever I want. Um, I don't know if anybody follows what's going on with Jack Doherty, and I always found it hilarious just how detached this kid is from reality, and he's been going strong, I want to say about 8 years now. And he had an idea that I thought was kind of funny, and it seemed pretty interesting to begin with. And what it was is that he strapped a GoPro to his head and put on a hoodie and went knocking door to door the day after Halloween. And I thought it was fun and unique. Excuse me. And I thought it was kind of funny, but then he started getting to the point of, I'm just going to be an obnoxious asshole and be a shit disturber, and never really had to face any type of consequences. And now his entire empire, if you will, is crumbling before his very eyes, and he doesn't know what he's doing wrong. And it all started where he was driving his McLaren at over 70 miles an hour in the rain. And while that was going on, he's looking down at his phone at chat while he's streaming to see what they're saying and to respond to him. And I've watched the video. You can actually hear he goes from 60 to 70 and increases speed and then hydroplanes. And he's blaming it all, and anybody that says that he's doing otherwise, it's like, it's really hard to drive a McLaren in the rain. You've never driven a McLaren because you're poor. You don't know what it's like. And that's when everybody just kind of went, this is your true colors. You're just someone who's completely detached from reality. And it was so important for you to capture your drama on camera that the person that you had filming you from the passenger seat was injured to the point where there was cuts and lacerations on his face and he's bleeding, but you hand him your phone along with whatever he was already recording with, so he can't even tend to his own wounds because he has two cameras going at the same time. And it was all about him. And everyone was just screaming, sue him. Sue him for negligence. Sue him for like failure to drive a car or whatever the fuck you have to do for it. And it's when I saw things like that that I really started to look at it and go, this is why we don't have a lot of good people on platforms, is because drama like this with people who are clueless and don't know what's going on is always there. And in some cases I understand, because I probably will never drive a McLaren, and that's okay. It's not on my bucket list in the top 10,000 things. But to have a situation to where someone who is 20 years old even owns a McLaren, due to situations like this, there's going to be a downfall. And there was a lady on my YouTube suggestion page is absolutely bizarre, because the amount of things that end up coming up on there for me to watch. there was a lady who was being obnoxious on an airplane and thought that because she has, I think, a couple of million followers on Instagram, that gives her the right to just kind of act however she wants. And she had said, go ahead, film me. I'm Instagram famous. And I know I brought this up on here before, but it's relevant just in case people didn't watch that video. To where she had to announce where she was famous. And if you have to announce on what platform you're famous, then you're not famous. Because anybody that doesn't have that platform doesn't know anything about you. Um, if you're famous on YouTube, people are just like, I watch your videos. They don't have to say, I'm YouTube famous. Jesus Christ. I think my voice is putting myself back to sleep. But things like that are why I feel we need to start paying more attention to one another, and we need to start paying more attention to the things around us, because we're slipping, and not in like a good way, to where you can slowly be slipping into something different or something better. That's not the case. It's to the point to where I think a lot of the situations in which the world is creating itself and pushing us into constant isolation is what is causing issues right now. Because human beings are not meant to be um, isolated. We're not meant to be sitting in a point to where we don't have anyone to talk to or to hear anybody else's responses. There are some that can get away with it. Um, but even then I'd have to kind of say, are you really? Are you really? Because let's say, because the thing that comes into my head is people that love to read, and I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I too love to. But what I'm saying is that if you're the type of person that always takes a book and a bath and a bottle of wine and you just sit in there for a few hours, and that's what you do every single day, you're still living in a world where there's interactions because of what you're reading and what you are going through while you read that. You are inserting yourself into that world and being a part of it, because there's never been a book that I've heard of that you can read and the person just doesn't talk to anybody. Whether it's an animal or whether it's another human being or anything else. Look at the movie Castaway, where Tom Hanks is playing a character that's stranded on an island. He eventually finds a volleyball, and he has a face that he draws on it that is now someone for him to talk to help out his insanity. Which that's an extremely sad movie, by the way. Um, but having a situation where you put people by themselves makes people go crazy, and not in the old Jack Buck kind of way of, go crazy, folks, go crazy, but in the we become more vulnerable to other types of attack kind of thing. And I think things like flat earth being a thing again is a large reason for this type of, or is a byproduct for something like this, because no sane person should sit there and think that the world is flat, but every other planet so every other planet is a ball, but we're a coin. Do you know how dumb that sounds? Like that's it's people trying to find comfort with others of the like mind, and it's trying to go back to one of our base things as human beings, and that's acceptance. To be accepted, to be people that are okay with being one another, that share a like mind, that have somewhere where they fit, because this isolation that we keep being pushed towards is taking over. I mean, look at Wally, and how there was just all types of things of you don't have to do much of anything. Everything comes to you. Just sit at home, be good, obedient little things. And I know years ago, I had gotten rid of Facebook, and I was completely happy that I did. There were times where I knew that there were people I would probably never speak to again, but just the sheer amount of vitriol and disgustingness that was put on there on a daily basis was ridiculous. And then almost all of that migrated towards Twitter. But Twitter is now even more so about just pumping hatred. Um, I there's very few Twitter posts that I've heard to where they're talking about something good or some situation good or some action that's good. It's just how can I spit out hate in 160 characters or less? 160 words less, whatever the hell it is. I don't know. I got banned from it because I for whatever reason. So I'm like, I don't give a shit. So when you have situations where you push people into a box and by themselves, and you don't have human interaction, their mental health starts to slip, and they start getting to the point to where those that require it at a much higher pace are left holding a bag of help, and they tend to not actually get that help. And there was I'm gonna see if I can find it real quick. There was a or not Twitter, a TikTok post that I saved a while ago, and I feel it's important to share it right now. Um, it's just a picture, so it doesn't need to have anything playing. But it says, Robin Williams once said, I think the people who experience the most sadness are the ones who are always trying to make other people happy, because they know firsthand what it's like to feel empty and depressed, and they don't want anyone else to feel that way. And I made sure to save that to bring that up in a video. And I'm not sure that Robin Williams said that, but that that's I didn't fact check it, but it makes sense if you realize every time that he was around, it was an enjoyable experience. And when he was basically told that as he got older, his mind would slip from him and he would basically become someone else, he was like, I don't want to be remembered that way. And so he took himself out, much to the dismay of everybody else. But it just goes to show that people that are empty and depressed will usually try and make others feel glad and happy in every situation that they can, because that kind of helps fill them with a sense of, I caused that. I was the reason that person had a moment to where they were able to smile and laugh. And it becomes even more precious memories when that person remembers it later and brings it back up, because then you can sit there and look back at it and go, I helped give that person a fantastic memory that they'll hold on to forever. And that's amazing, that I get to relive that through them, but it's an experience for them. It's something they get to carry with them. It's something that they get to hold on to. And the person that caused it is someone who just kind of sits there and goes, well, I don't have that. I just have that shared action. It's not something that caused me that, but it is something that I did. I was a part of, and that's a good thing, and I'm happy for that. Um, but there's that hole inside that person that they can't get that same experience to help fill, because the hole of emptiness and the hole of sadness and depression and being isolated, things like that, is wider and deeper than most people realize. And if you took a cement truck and you had it empty its entire cement mixer in there, you even got in there with a scraper to get all the extra little pieces out, and you pushed it down that slide, and you scraped everything off that slide, you wouldn't even come up with a 0.5% of filling that hole. It's like trying to fill a sinkhole with a bag of sand that you can carry. It's not going to happen. Sure, it was effort on your part, but and it isn't that action or that effort isn't worth it. It's just it takes so much more, because every single day that hole gets wider and deeper every single day. And so trying to repair that hole becomes harder and harder the more that people try. And sometimes people just end up saying, fuck it, it's a lost cause. I can't deal with it. And I speak from experience, because for myself, I go through this all the time. So here's a little bit of truth. It'll probably be the most personal thing that I've shared on here, other than just thoughts, which thoughts to me aren't necessarily the same level of personal as this. But about 5 years ago, when I hit 40, and I just kind of went, this isn't at all where I was hoping I would be when I was 40. But I also, when I hit 40, I said, I got 5 years. I got 5 years to change what's going on before I find everything is hopeless. And I got 5 years before I punch my own ticket, before I take myself out, if nothing has changed. And I put in effort, and I tried, and the job that I just had, I was hoping was going to be more of a springboard towards something else, and it wasn't. But yeah, if you would have talked to me 5 years ago, I wouldn't be here making this video today. That was my mindset. And it was during that entire process that something profound happened that caused me, and someone who I view as a brother, it was a traumatic experience for both of us, more so for him. But it broke 15 years worth of being tearless. And I broke. And it was during that I realized that if nothing else, I have to be a rock for him. Even if it means that the rock does nothing and just sits in one place, but is always there to be be a backup, then so be it. And it was that sole thought that prevented me from doing it and pushed that other thought out of my head. The other thing being, a little more than a year ago to this date, I had made the choice to start fixing my own self and to start seeing a therapist again. This is my 5th therapist in my life, and I told her, I said, my big thing is I'm tired of starting over. I'm tired of rehashing all of these old wounds again and again and again. And I'm tired of remembering all of these wounds again and again and again. So I'm here for longevity and then to start working on fixing things, because everyone else that I had spoke to, I saw for 6 months-ish at most. And then my time with them was done. Or I felt it wasn't the right kind of thing. There was one that I saw that said that I needed to do some type of meditation, and it worked for a little bit, but I feel like there's levels to it, and the levels are, I need people to just understand what I'm going through. And then you give me something to kind of help out with a portion of this, but it's not going to help with everything. And this dude's thing was just go into meditation, that'll take care of everything. For me, it didn't. For me, it didn't take care of enough to where I went, okay, I feel this wound is being taken care of. It was more like meditate just to put it out of your mind. And it eventually I just went, I can't do this. And so I stopped seeing him. One that I had seen when I was going to community college was the one that helped me understand a lot. And she was the one that I was hoping I could see on a consistent basis. But she said she's just an on-site counselor, and to go elsewhere would cost too much. And I went, all right, well, that's the end of that one. But I was able to find someone, and it's funny because I originally wanted to make sure that it was a guy that I talked to, but that I don't know how that got mixed up. But the one that I'm seeing now is absolutely incredible and has helped me out in so many ways of being able to just identify things. Like there's been points to where she has said a single word and I'm just watching my entire world just expand and unravel, and just all of these points just start making sense. Don't worry, I'm going to tell you the word. But the fact that she could say just one word that helped start weaving together understanding in my own head, started making sense of why I have so few quality relationships, and how I react when certain types of relationships come up, or certain things in certain relationships come up. And a lot of those things I really started to understand, and I'm going, this is nuts. And it was at that moment, that was earlier this year in February, that I really truly started to understand that as much as I thought I understand, and there was quite a few things to where I had the knowledge of, but it was almost like trying to figure out how to take myself and insert myself into that situation and be able to relate to it, much the same way that I do when it comes to math. Because for myself, when it comes to math, I have to be able to re-explain it in my own way of understanding, to know that I have actually grasped what was going on. Um, when I was going through my psychology classes and trying to understand these formulas, and I'm going, but what are they for? Don't tell me just to memorize a formula that goes to something, but I'm going, what is it for? Because I have to understand each little bit of interweavings on it in order for me to be able to relate it to understand why it goes to something, not just red matches red. It doesn't, I can't do that type of extensive thinking and understanding without understanding what's going on. And every time that I had talked to someone, they're like, well, you just have to understand that that's where that one goes. I'm going, I can't memorize things that way. I have to relate it to something. It has to fit to something else so I can recall it instead of just, is that the one that goes? I don't operate that way. And they're like, I don't know what to tell you. Which is probably a big factor of why I didn't continue along with those classes anymore, because I didn't find a way to just weave it. And finally, I talked with someone and they said, hey, what you're trying to do is something that pretty much happens at the doctorate level. I'm a motherfucker, I'm at the bachelor level. Why in the hell are you giving me shit at the bachelor level that I'm not going to understand the why for 2 more levels? Why is this not at the master's level? And then to learn the extra inner workings, you go 1 more level up instead of you're going to be at this level and then you got to jump 2 levels up. I'm going, what the fuck are you talking about? And again, it was at that point that I just kind of went, I can't do this. This is just stupid. Because I couldn't find a way to weave it together. I couldn't find a way to have it make any kind of sense at a level that I was okay with. And it's no different than whenever I try to teach somebody something that I know. I have an infinite amount of patience to teach, provided you have the same level of drive to learn. Because I can take something that I know and I can reword it to this or I can reword it to that. And if you watch the movie Road Trip, he goes, I can teach Greek philosophy to a chimpanzee in 4 hours. The problem is just relating the material. And that is the one thing that has stood out to me in that movie, because I went, that is absolutely true. You could teach anybody anything, but you have to learn how to relate what you're trying to teach to the person you're trying to teach it to. You know, look at Rosetta Stone and Duolingo and things like that, to where if you want to learn a language, you have to find a way that works for you. Rosetta Stone didn't work for me, but Duolingo I really liked. It's just I got bored with it because I don't have ways in my daily life to use it. It's just things I think would be kind of nice to know, but if I'm not going to have any way to apply it anywhere in my life, then there's no point in continuing on any further. And what I'm saying about all of this comes down to the one word that she said that really triggered something in me. And I wanted to fit all of this in here to really kind of hit home as far as what I'm trying to get to. And the word was attachment. And I can still to this day recall just going, it's like someone opened up the wonders of the universe, and now I all of a sudden understand everything that's going on, and everything makes sense, and every aspect of things made sense. Having people say that I have a fear of missing out, like, no, I have a dislike of being not included, because I've always had inclusivity whenever I have anything. And that goes back to when I had my apartment and we would have monthly game nights. I would let everybody know, hey, um, this Saturday, game night, bring your shit. And I would have 11 people. I'd have 7 people. I'd have 6 people. I'd have 4 people. And we had game nights. And it was get everybody together, have some social interaction, make the time. You have enough of a lead ahead of time. And, let's get together and let's play. And it was definitely one of those things to where people were talking about, oh, we go over to game nights, and it was building, and it was fantastic. And they're going, well, what if I want to go but I don't want to play? I said, you can watch for a little bit, but you're going to eventually play, and I'm going to eventually find something that you will find something you enjoy, and I will find a game that you will want to play. That's just all there is to it. I have too many of them, and I enjoy most of them, and that's just how that's going to go. Because I don't invite people over just to sit. I include them. I make sure that they feel a sense of, including and belonging. And when I lost my apartment, game nights died. And I'll hear something every now and again of, I miss game nights. I'm going, so the hell do I? But I can't host them here. So if y'all want to play, someone's going to have to host. And back in June, finally had a breakthrough of being able to play D&D. And even right now, to my right here, I have my stack of things that I usually go through and rummage through, and isn't a day that goes by that I don't think of something to do or how I'm going to implement something else, or things that I have planned down the line that in the back of my head I'm going, oh my God, can we just get to this point? Because I want to see how you all react to this shit. And having those bits to where you get together for those is something that I think is starting to bring back that magic of being around people again. And while I only do it twice a month, because it's just a lot easier for everybody on that aspect. And there have been times where we've had a Saturday session, but I know that after September, it's not happening. It's too hard to get things together with all the holidays that are pushed together towards the end of the year. And it's okay, because it makes days like today on a Tuesday, I'm looking forward to Friday. For myself, it's a day that I enjoy, and I have those attachments to where it's a game that I enjoy, and it's such a good experience that I try to bring that out and tell other people about it. I've already talked about D&D on another one, and I think next week's one I'm just going to go on a whole big old tangent on just Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm just whatever, I'm going with it. But it's breaking that stigma of isolate. Why go out into the world and see what's going on when you can stay at home and take some pictures and show people what you're doing, and off you go. They don't have to come and experience it with you. They could just look on the outside of what you're doing. There's a lot of, and I'm not saying that's the mentality, but that's almost like the byproduct of having all of these situations to where we do keep pushing each other, and we do keep getting pushed into being more isolated. You can have almost everything delivered to your front door now, so why go anywhere? And it's not good to constantly be in a situation to where you're essentially in a cage and you have no real connection outside other than just the want to go outside and the want to be around people and loved ones and the want to have an experience and a conversation, even if it's just around some breadsticks at Olive Garden or something like that. You're at least getting a chance to go out and meet with people and have that interaction. And I think things like that are the reason why we have a distorted view of relationships and why it's so difficult to date right now and why it's so difficult to have long lasting relationships because of all these isolations. You can still have interactions with a video and you could still have something that reverberates in your head that says, yeah, that's great. I really need to get in there and I really need to do that. But it's not anything that's healthy towards it. It's almost like feeding into the intrusive thoughts and having that sense of, if I just, then I. And we get to the point to where that's the situation. Then how do you actually go forward from there and talk someone essentially back from the ledge when they don't even know they're approaching a ledge? You have all these things that bolster someone towards this monumental decision that all of a sudden they have it happen, and that's part of me now. Again, that's where I think flat earthers have come around and been a thing again. And to have these situations to where we are breaking down inside and not drawing attention to it, not having those trigger words that bring out these emotions with us and that bring out these things that we have not really known have been sequestered and just smothered and pushed into a box to where we'll deal with it later. Now we have a situation to where things are irritating the shit out of us and we don't know why. Or the things that we used to enjoy and the people we used to enjoy being around, we just kind of shove them off to the side and we don't know why. And you get to the point where you just kind of go, well, not quite sure what the hell I'm supposed to do at this point. But yeah, I need to figure out what's happening. And a lot of this really started to kind of, I'll say the first rock had been removed from the wall to where I was able to kind of understand, oh my God, okay, I can see the pattern now. And it was 2 years ago when I was telling my brother that he had been sort of joining me in reading comic books, so I was gonna dip into his world and read something from his favorite author and something that I'd always wanted to read. I had read a little bit, but just wasn't really getting into it. And it was It by Stephen King, and I bought it for like $10, the big old thick paperback, and I just went, all right, it's been a bit since I read a book, like a book. So, all right, let's do it. It took me a month to read that thing. And I went, it's funny because I am also Mike. I always respond to Pickle easier because my entire life I've always hung around other Mikes, and either you go by last names whenever others are around, or you have other names for each other, and off you go. But Mike Hanlon got stuck in Derry, and it was pretty much his job as sort of the record keeper to let everybody else know that he loved and that the things that they went through, that he was still there and he was sort of the keeper of it all. And everybody else moved away and kind of forgot. And I even told him, I went, I am Mike Hanlon. Everybody else that moved out of here had the proper resources or motivations or whatever to move on and was able to forget about all this stuff and create better things. But I wasn't that fortunate, so I am stuck. But I'm the one that remembers most things about most things. And it was really kind of crazy that not only in name could I relate, but in overall situation and um, story and outcome and things like that. And it's been crazy to actually know that in a Stephen King book of all books, you could not only relate to a character, but what they're going through. And while there are things that are relatable with almost every book that you read, the fact that I could relate to on such a more deeper level than anything that I had read really kind of made that book stick out to me and was really kind of special. And um, I I would have to say the last time I can remember really tearing through a Stephen King book was Salem's Lot. I don't remember much about it. I just remember there was a point in time to where something was going on. I think I was out at uh, the church youth group function for some such shit. I don't remember what, but I was like, "Nah, I'm good." And I just sat back and I finished that book because I was just enjoying the book so much. I don't remember what it was, but I was going, "I'm gonna have more fun enjoying this book than anything else." So no, I don't care. Um, so I don't know, having a part to where you could relate again. So I'm saying people that isolate themselves with books still have something to kind of help familiarize themselves with portions of it is no different than being in utter isolation. But if you unplugged your computer and you didn't have anything to read and your time was spent just kind of staring at a wall, how long do you think you would last before you kind of went crazy? I wouldn't make it a week. Um, I know I wouldn't make it a week. But in all these ramblings, it still goes to show that the intensity of your mental state intensifies and grows each day until you are able to actually really put a pin in it and familiarize yourself, and you have that trigger word, if you will, that that causes things to start making sense and has your realization reels rolling. And when you identify it and you can actually work with it, it becomes better. And before I leave you this week, I want to share one little thing, and I'm not going to go into detail about it, and I'll explain why. But a few weeks ago, I had a breakthrough with my therapy appointments, and it was something that took me after that session. I had to stand out in the parking lot and just stare at the sky and just look around, and I had to literally recover. Um, it just was such a drastic hit and such a reality shaker that I during the situation, I'm picturing myself saying, fuck this. This ain't going to work. I'm done. I'm leaving. I'm picturing myself walking out the door and apologizing as I go, but yet still going through the process of everything. And after the vision of me leaving, I had a vision of me going into my car and pulling out my phone and going and calling up my brother. And he and I just making fun of this whole situation, but yet at the exact same time going through the situation. And I didn't know at the time what was going on, but I was so aware of everything going on. I was mentally there, but I wasn't. I was physically there, but I wasn't. I was emotionally there, but I wasn't. And having that constantness of going on, it shattered my reality so heavily that I'm just going, all right, okay, yeah, uh, I shit you not, I stood in the parking lot for 15 minutes just trying to recover enough to be able to drive my car back to this chair. I have never, ever experienced anything like that ever in my life. And it was so life changing that I also thought it was interesting that I never told anybody about it. Usually something profound, usually something that it hits you so hard, you want to share it with other people. But for whatever reason, I just wanted it to be mine. And this is the most since the next session that I had, I went, okay, we got to unpack 2 weeks ago because we went half an hour over what we were supposed to. I had no concept of time. I had no idea what was happening, but I was aware that I wasn't speaking loud enough and I needed to speak louder. I was aware of my physical condition to where I was originally sitting up straight like this and then eventually just kept going down to where I was more in a situation like this. And I'm just talking at this level. This is about all the more I could master. And my entire experience with that, again, just shook my entire foundation that I needed to recover. And we had talked about doing it for months. And I have trust issues with a lot of things. Like I may trust you with a couple of things and then see how you go. Or I may trust you with nothing, and that's because I don't really want to associate with you. But I can always get to a point where I can say, I can relate at this level. Here's a little piece of proof that I can relate, and here's the trust. But I don't trust fully, easily. And I had told her, I said, I think the entire time that we've been working together, and it's just been more just kind of a word vomit of get shit out. Ever since the word attachment was said, this has been the next most profound thing. And I didn't realize how much of an impact it had. So much so to where anytime that I think about that situation, I have a little dude right next to me, just sitting here looking at me, and I that's who I interact with. And having those types of situations that you didn't know were even possible, to have a connection like that, even in yourself, goes to show that not every time you have a problem can you solve it by yourself. Not every time that something it affected you, or you had a reaction to a situation, can you understand why that is, why that happened, why this is becoming an issue, or why do I always have that type of reaction when someone mentions a grilled cheese, or whatever it is. But it's something that I knew a year ago, more than a year ago, that I can't do it on my own. I at least need a guide. And once I started to view her as a guide, everything became better. Instead of, here's someone who's going to help me fix my problems. Because it goes back to when I was a kid, and you say mental illness, you got crazy people. Well, mental illness is just that person's fucking crazy. That's just all there is to it. They're just crazy. It's that stigma has left for the most part, but I think it's still present in a lot of us mentally. And until you yourself can get past that point of realizing that you're just asking for a guide, whether it's your conversations are a jumbled mess and you just talk about any and everything through any which way, and then you have fun backtracking those conversations, or whether it's, I don't know why, anytime that it's 11:53 a.m. or p.m., I get mad as hell. It until you start to talk to someone that knows how to go, okay, so what this is this is all a jumbled mess. So we're going to start organizing this. We're going to start putting this together, and or at least give you the task to do so. And then before you know it, you realize that you yourself are actually putting those pieces together. You're you're putting those files into the file cabinet they belong into, instead of just scattered every which way and some of them hanging from the fucking ceiling. Why is there manila folder up there? Things like that. And when the time comes that you reach out and you talk to someone, know that you have backup here that is saying it helps. You can't be so arrogant as to think it'll go away, because it's in you. It just goes away from your current frame of mind. It goes away from, your current thought process. And there's nothing wrong with finding somebody to talk about it. I'm perfectly happy with the person that I'm seeing that's helping me out, that's guiding me through processes, that's guiding me through understanding, that's guiding me through healing, that's guiding me through recollection. I'm perfectly happy with it. I have no problems telling people about, the person that I talk to, but what we talk about is on a completely different level. And it's one of the few good things that I wish I could share. It's definitely insanely personal. But I think as long as I give you the experiences, it's enough of a backup that says reach out and try and find someone to talk to. And no, this video isn't made for one specific person. But it's made for anybody that feels any type of resounding voice, if you will, to anything and everything that I've stated today. Much like reading a book, that you find that you have an attachment to a character, or that you have an attachment to a particular situation within that, or a scenario, or anything like that, it's no different. Because essentially, reading a story and reading a book is just experiencing what's in someone else's mind. And if you can read someone else's mind and find a connection, and that connection helps you, it can't be a bad thing. So if there's things that are bothering you, reach out to someone. Put in the comments, share this video, whatever. If you feel that someone could actually benefit from this message, if someone could actually sit there and have something that you feel that they could take away from my holy shit, my hour plus video. Oh my God. If you feel that they can, then reach out, send it to them. Let them hear words that they may have a trigger word for them that goes, holy shit. Or know that there's someone out there that can bring those to light and help you understand. Maybe there's something down deep that you didn't know was there. And next thing you know, you're face to face with it, and you're just going, all right, well, that's something else to unpack. So, well, I guess here we go. And it's all in the process of caring. It's all in the process of actually putting something towards your own valuable economy in here and in your heart to make yourself better. Because if you always hear people say, I'm out here living my best life, that's usually a lot of superficial shit. But are you actually living your best life? Or are you just trying to sit there and incite people into thinking that that's what they need to reach towards? And I think we need to get back to giving a shit about ourselves as much as we do about the next person. And I know that this is coming from someone who definitely does not view himself that way, but it's a process and it takes time. There's a lot of boulders to move out of the way before the road's clear. So at least I've got plenty of moved boulders behind me, so I at least know that there's progress. But all right, that's all I got for today. Take care of yourselves. Like I said, the holiday seasons coming up are usually pretty rough. I myself know that I suffer from seasonal affective disorder because usually right around the end of October is where I'm going, can I just go to sleep till February? That's where I'd rather do. I'm tired of the heartache that these months bring up. This is a lot. But yeah. Take care of yourselves. And if you need someone, reach out to somebody. I'm here. If you need to reach out to me for whatever. And again, sorry that this video drug on for so long. But I felt it was important and I had a lot to say. And yeah, take care of yourselves. Be safe.